I'll use this question as an opportunity to kind of just remind you that yes, our goal for a lot of these questions is to maybe come up with our own word for the blank, but don't get ahead of yourself and try to do that before you finish the passage. I don't think in this case, I'd have any idea what the blank is supposed to be until after I've kind of finished the story. So let's just take a look. Urban planning expert Francisco Lara Valencia and colleagues have argued that managing environmental matters along the US-Mexico border blank coordination between the two countries' governments. Since ecosystems extend across the border, actions taken on one side can have environmental effects on the other side, making international cooperation essential. Oh, we're talking about cooperation. And so they're saying here, managing environmental matters along the US-Mexico border needs coordination, something like that. I'm kind of going off of this, going off the repetition of this kind of like two people or two groups need to be involved. So maybe I come up with it at the end, but even if not, then we can just do what we did on question 3, which is just plug in the choices and see what makes sense. So requires basically means need. Okay, managing environmental matters along the US-Mexico border requires coordination between the two countries' governments. Yeah, that seems reasonable. So I don't know, at least keep that in. Managing environmental matters praises coordination. Well, a person needs to praise something, right? That means to give compliments to someone, but a person needs to give those compliments. So it doesn't make sense to say that managing environmental matters praises anything. Managing something that's not a thing to actually give praise, right? So this just doesn't fit in the blank. Managing environmental matters along the border reports coordination. Well, again, in the same way you need a person to kind of praise something, you also need a person to report something, right? It's a word that requires a person. So again, I don't know how managing can report anything. A manager can report something, but that's not what it says. Same thing with advises, right? Managing environmental matters along the US-Mexico border advises coordination. This is something people might pick because it does sound like the passage is trying to get you to say that this coordination is good. And requires is a word that's a lot more neutral, whereas advise is a word that's much more positive. But again, the usage doesn't make sense here. And managing something can't advise something. A manager can advise it, or someone can advise the manager to coordinate. But that is not what we're saying here. So it's basically like the connotation is right, but the word just does not fit in that blank. So we end up going with requires. And to me, that just feels natural too. I'm not like fighting it. I'm not like begrudgingly picking A here. Like it makes sense. It fits with what I thought it was going to be, and it just does fit in that blank nicely. But I think some people sometimes take advice that we use in other parts of the SAT reading and try to apply it to the vocabulary, and we don't always want to do that. So one thing that we are worried about when we're getting to the passage questions is that there are extreme words that go too far. Those words can sometimes make a choice wrong without even having to read the passage. We just know that that choice is too extreme. Requires is one of those words that if I saw that in a passage, if I saw that in a answer choice on a passage question, I would be nervous about that choice. But this is a different game, right? The vocab questions and the passage questions are just two different games. So the rules are not necessarily the same. Dumb summaries can help us, but I don't think I would be scared of choice A just because it's a very strong word in other contexts. Here, the passage justifies it, right? They're saying cooperation is very, very, very important because of all the issues across the border. So we have evidence that it's right, but also, again, I wouldn't have even thought of it as being too strong from the start. It just doesn't apply on the vocab questions.